we got another review request here. Our Patreon backer, Bobby. Thank you so much for your request. We have 2001 A Space Odyssey from 1968 by Stanley Kubrick, and we're going to review on this episode of Movie Breakdowns. What's up, world? Welcome to another episode of Movie Breakdowns. I'm your host, Ali Zakka. And before I get into the review, if there's a movie you want me to watch or a series you want to review, let me know. Please put in the comment section below and I'll get to it as best I can. I also have Patreon, Patreon/Ali Zakka for $2 a month. You can cut in front of everybody, get trade reactions, trade reviews, and get your reviews out way before they come out on Facebook and YouTube. Now, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. A 2001's A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. It's from 1968. And what is this movie about? This movie is about a supercomputer by the name of HAL 9000 who is guiding these astronauts to Jupiter to find the origin of humanity. That is the basics of this movie. Things go sideways, of course, because of things happen. Now, what do I like about this movie? This is made in 1968, and I think I watched a remastered version. I would love to watch the original version in theaters because the remastered version made it look like a movie that stands till this day. You can watch this stuff and be like, man, this looks like a pretty good movie. Like, as far as visuals and practical effects and the uses of technology during that time to make this movie look like it can stand for remainder of forever, just by the fact how they use the props in this movie, how they use the lack of CGI to make it look like you're actually in space, how they used the prompts to show somebody walking up a wall and to walk into another room, and the camera angles, the camera tricks, and the visual in this movie is really, really good. It's solid. Like, if this movie was just a visual piece and probably last 30 minutes, this movie would be like an A+. Like, the visual, and for the year it came out, like, if this movie came out in 2022, this is all stuff we all seen. But this movie came out in 1968, before your Star Wars, before your Transformers, before your Space Jam, and before I use Space Jam, but before your Armageddon and Interstellar and all Alien and all those other movies that are based in space. The only thing I could think of that came out before this was Star Trek, the TV series that came out in 1966, which kind of showed you around the time what was going on in the world during that time, because I think this is during the same time as the moon landing and the voyage into space in the 60s. But yes, like, the visuals in this movie are amazing. Like, visually it looks amazing. It holds up. You're seeing things that are like, man, okay, I've seen this, in Transformers, I've seen this in Alien, I've seen this in all these other movies, Men in Black, and all these other movies that, years from this movie. And this movie was, a lot of people consider to be the origins of a lot of the camera work we see today. Matter of fact, a lot of shots for the spaceship in this movie, I kept noticing from Star Wars 1, from the Star Destroyer showing up, and you see the Star Destroyer coming in. I believe they went opposite directions. The movie in A Space Odyssey went from watching on screen left to right, like the spaceship is going left to right. But in Star Wars that came out in 1977, the Star Destroyer is going from right to left. It's like they use the same exact props. It looks like there's settings and camera work to give the perception of space going on, and it's the same exact framing, it looks like to me. But A Space Odyssey being the original, being like the inspiration for a lot of these movies going forward in the future, great. It was great. Like, the camera tricks, the training montage, and he's running around a room, and the camera is like, reminds me of Dragon Ball Z, not gonna lie. When Goku's training inside a little orb that's going to Namek, that orb reminds me from the movie A Space Odyssey, where the dude's running around the room training and punching in the air, but he's still training, and they're in space. So they're using shoes called grip shoes, where they are sticking to the ground because they're float. If they don't, they'll float. Like, visually, this movie is amazing. This movie is amazing. Music-wise, this movie is good music. Like, I believe the actual theme of the song is a 2001 A Space Odyssey theme, which I think of Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, woo, styling and profiling from WWE and WCW, the wrestler. His theme song is what I hear when I watch this movie, because that movie was where he got the theme song from. So we're hearing that, like opening up, I was like, oh, I've seen this before. I heard this song so many different times. And there's another song in this movie that's played over and over again. It's a classical song that's played over and over again, that's reused so much, that's in this movie as well. So now I know where people got the inspiration for that, because I've seen this movie being parodied. Anything that comes to space, that soundtrack is played. I'm pretty sure Toy Story used it at one point. Like, it is being played over and over again. And sure enough, if you're a wrestling fan, Ric Flair, that's his theme song. That's when you hear that song plays, Ric Flair is coming out. Matter of fact, Charlotte Flair uses that theme song now, just a remake version for her. So those are the things that I really like. The thing that I didn't like in this movie is the story and the directing for characters, especially Dave, which direct this man to have more emotion. Please direct this man to have more emotion. So the opening of this movie, you get what is considered the Monolith, which is a different life form that landed on Earth, and it's been there since years and finally got discovered, and now it's showed up again in Jupiter, and that's where, you know, the astronauts are going to go find to figure out what this thing is. But at the beginning of the movie, you're watching apes. It says, like, before the time of man, you're watching the apes pretty much interact with this thing, and when the ape learned how to use a bone to crush another bone, pretty much the first ever tool to be made, the song is playing and the Monolith is there in the presence of this ape discovering how to use a bone as a hammer. And it's like, okay, this thing was the reason for why apes learned to start using tools. It was there. And then it shows up again in the middle of the movie, and it disappears, and you now following Dave, Frank, and Hal 9000 and them trying to get to Jupiter to figure out what the signal, what's the beaming that's alerting people on Earth that something's out there. They're trying to get to them. And the storyline, the concept I like, but the storyline from there was like, it took a moment to get to there, for one, and then from there it was like, all right, cool, we're having the storyline part, we're finally getting somewhere, we got an antagonist, protagonist situation where Hal's like sabotaging the crew, and you don't understand really why Hal is doing it. He said he don't want to jeopardize the mission. Well, he's sabotaging the crew because he heard Dave and Franco talk about, like, maybe we should shut this guy off because he might be having a computer error. Even though the HAL 9000 on Earth cross-examines them, and HAL 9000 on Earth says there's nothing going on, but the HAL 9000 on the ship is the one saying, like, no, there is something going on with the ship. It's going to malfunction. So they're trying to find a way to shut down HAL. HAL's like, nah, we're not doing that. HAL's coming back and pretty much killed the crew except for one guy. And when this happened to me, when I saw this, I was like, where's the emotion? Where is Dave, who just watched his crewmate, at least for 18 months, die? And he didn't seem like he cared. And he wasn't directed the way, like, the character wasn't directed to seem like to show emotion. Like, dude, you just lost your crewmate, and now you gotta let his body go into space and float while you try to get back into this building to stop the 9000 robot. Like, what? Show some emotion, show some expressions. That was one of my dislikes, that there was no emotion for this whole thing going on. Matter of fact, there's loose ends in this movie. Hal kills the people who are hibernating, and they don't ever show them again. You don't see Dave coming across the people and, like, looking at the bodies like, he shut off the hibernation tank, he killed them. Nothing about that. Like, we don't even know if Dave even realizes that they're not there. We just know Dave realized, like, we gotta shut down his computer because the computer's going crazy. And then once you get to that little section of the movie, you get to the final piece of the movie, which I was a little bit like really, I felt like we were dragging this out, where they showed kind of like Dave witnessing the infinite universe and everything's coming to him at once, and he's experiencing all this with like different lights and different flashes and this journey, and then he finally ends up as an older Dave in a room, and you kind of see his life flash before his eyes, and then you kind of get rebirthed again with the monolith being right there. But I didn't really need a long 3 minute, 4 minute, 5 minute, wherever it was to finally get to Dave realizing he's in a room like, oh, I've made it past wherever I need to make it to get to that. I just felt like that was a little overdone. But visually, I think this movie was great. Storyline could be definitely more, there's more to desire for the storyline for me. And also kind of like be a little more like what happened to the people who saw the monolith on that planet, and then the noise happened to screech and they just kind of freaked out, and then it like cuts 18 months. Like what happened to them? What was the same crew? Like the movie really didn't elaborate that. And matter of fact, it's just crazy to say that, because the first half of this movie is nothing but exposition. It's explaining what's going on. After you get to the ape, find the tools, and you go to the spaceship, you get this exposition of what's going on, conversation, people talking. Matter of fact, I believe it was Dave, if not Frank, early in the movie talking to his kid, which we don't get a payoff on that again. We definitely get Frank with his birthday party, and we don't really get a payoff on that. Like, you introduce these characters, but there's no payoff on them. And I think that's, to me, where this movie suffers at, is the writing and the elaborations on story and story building. But visually, like, this movie is phenomenal when it comes to the visuals of this movie. And before I get into the cast and crew and director, I do want to mention I went back and watched the trailer of the 1968 version, and it didn't look that much different from the trailer of the remaster. So I probably did watch the 1968 version, and if that was the case, that movie looks amazing as far as visually. Like, it's on point. Like, it was A+ work there visually. Storyline for me is just what kills it. I feel like it just wasn't the strongest story. I've seen better stories around that time period, and this wasn't the strongest one. But visually, I think this movie hit the spot when it comes to visuals. All right, let's go ahead and get into the director, the cast. So this movie is directed by Stanley Kubrick and also written by Stanley Kubrick, and in the screenplay as well by Arthur C. Clarke, which is actually based off short stories from him. The stars in this movie, you have Gary Lockwood, who played Dr. Frank Poole, and I'm gonna mess his name up, but Cara Dooley, who played Dave Bowman. And I think as far as what they've been directed to do, I think they express, like, the actors themselves, I think they did a solid job acting. I just think directing for the character, for especially Dave, when he realized he had to let go Frank and out into space, like, I wish he had a little more emotion on his face besides him just kind of like, all right, I think I do the mission. It was very robotic. Like, I have to do the mission, I have to release this guy, I have to float this out, now I gotta get into the building, and I gotta go cut off Hal, which Douglas Rain, who voices Hal 9000, I thought did a good job. He actually reminded me, and this is probably where Alan Tudyk got his inspiration for Hal and get inspiration for his robotic voice, especially the movie I, Robot, because Hal 9000 sounded like Sonny from I, Robot. Just the way he reacted, the way he sounded, the way his expressions were, I thought it was great. And there's a scene where Dave has to shut off Hal, and Hal is like trying to get Dave to respond to him as Dave is shutting him off, and Hal is like reverting back to his old state, his original base computer form. And it was like one of the most like interesting parts of the movie, because Hal kept saying he can feel, like, which a robot's not supposed to feel, is an android, but how can saying he can feel himself slipping. And Dave is, once again, kind of just like shutting him out and looking over at him. And there's one moment where I felt like there was like emotion, where Dave asked Hal to tell him a song that was programmed to him to sing. And I was like, oh. That I like that touch, which Hal not gonna feel emotion, but right there is like, it was kind of interesting to see like robots have feelings. And I'm watching Eden Zero recently, which the whole series about androids having feelings, and androids feeling, and androids not being able to express emotions, but they can express emotions and they can have friends. So like seeing that back in 1968 was like, that was something that was started, a spark was started there, and a lot of people took that and ran with it. I love it. Like R2-D2 and 3CPO, they have emotions. Like you can, just from the conversations from the Star Wars movies, but Eden Zero right now is the anime, it really hits that home about the feelings and emotions of androids. Which we see other things like that. Dragon Ball Z, you have androids that have emotion. Android 16 has emotions. Android 18, 17, they feel fear. Android 19, there's a sound or a scene in Dragon Ball Z where Vegeta asks Android 19, do you feel fear? And there's a scene where Android 19 never says it, but he starts running and asks for help. And that's all Vegeta needed to know, that androids feel fear. And this movie, that little scene there where he goes like, I feel myself slipping, and he starts singing that song, and as a way for Dave to comfort Hal. Yeah, that's strong stuff right there. But everything else about that movie, everything else about this movie, it was like, I'm now like, as far as like, I'm getting back into writing and everything, but and storyline, but everything else, I just felt like it was kind of dull. It wasn't really expressed. The story wasn't hit as hard. But that scene was awesome, and I think it doesn't do it justice without the voice acting from Douglas Rain being Hal and really like leading all into that. That's about it when it comes to the characters I want to talk about. Budget. The budget of this movie was, I'm pulling off IMDb here, was $12 million estimated. It grossed worldwide. Oh, it had a re-release in 2018, but it grossed worldwide, and I'm wondering to know if this is based off the re-release or this is actually just overall. But I had the worldwide gross from IMDb as $65 million plus, like 800,000, etc. Which I'm going to say that is probably not the full release from 1968 all the way up. They re-released it again. That could be the re-release from 2018, but that's pretty solid though. Even if it was a re-release, if that's the original, that's pretty solid with a budget of $12 million. Like they got their money back a lot. But yeah, so they did get re-released, which is kind of which makes real sense to me when it comes to. It comes to like, well, I felt like I was watching this. It felt like I was watching a remaster because if it got re-released, then there definitely is a remaster out there, and I probably watched a remaster on HBO Max. Any other thoughts? Nah, I don't really have any other thoughts for this movie. Like, I think the music, which is iconic music, is reused over and over again. I got to see a lot. I got to see the origins of it. The visuals, which I definitely believe, I saw this in 1968, I will be losing my mind in theaters. Like the visuals for the time it came out is A+. The story has more to be desired. That's about it. Alright, is this a Friday night movie? 2022, no, it's not a Friday night movie. I don't think everybody will get together and watch this movie and be intrigued and involved in it. But if this came out in if this was 1968 and it's like 1973, it was like, hey, you want to watch a movie? Yeah, let's watch a Friday night movie. You know, Space Odyssey, 2001, Space Odyssey. Let's watch it. Like, I think people will be losing their minds watching this movie and be super intrigued on how they did things. Especially somebody who's into this kind of like direction and camera work and all that. So they'd be like, well, man, how'd they do that? I literally believe if I was in the theater in 1968, I would be losing my mind watching this movie. 2021, I was like, neat. It's neat to see the origins of this all. Alright. So, to answer that question, 2021, I don't think this is a Friday night movie. In 1973, yes, this would have been a Friday night movie. So just the timing of when this movie came out, I think would have made the difference. So if you're watching it now, and you're somebody who's not into film and not into camera work and not into like how things were, the origins of stuff, I think watching this movie today probably wouldn't do a Friday night movie, but you're like a film festival or everybody's together, we're in a film class and let's watch a movie to kind of like see some origin stuff, get ideas and inspiration from. I think this would be a Friday night movie. Actually, matter of fact, for class at school, this definitely be like a Friday night movie to watch to everybody get together for film class. Alright, grading time. I'm going to grade 2001 at Space Odyssey a B-. It gets an 80% for me, a B-. And the reason why this movie gets that for me, like I said, the visuals in this movie for the year it came out was amazing. Storyline is not the strongest storyline. There's loose ends in here that really make you wonder like what happens to the kid, how that plays into the movie. You introduce a family, how that plays into the movie. You know, what do you talk about Frank's family? What about Frank? What about the people who was in the ship that get killed? Okay, sure, we're just going to blow past it like they not there. We shut down Hall, but what happens to the rest of the halls? Like, there's so much stuff in this movie that really like makes you wonder like, okay, we're just going off of Dave, but what happens to everybody else? Why doesn't Dave show he's really caring or show his emotion about what's going on? Like, he's the only one left on his crew. The only one left. Like, and I get the ending and you know, the whole rebirth thing and, you know, the cycle of life, which I get that. But then, like, the Monolith and what happened to the people who saw the Monolith the first time, and do they, what about the Monolith? I just feel like I get the reason, like the extraterrestrial thing there for like the birth of mankind and the birth of like using tools and all this stuff. But it's just like, we brought it in, leave it there, take it out. So the writing in the movie is not the best, but the visual of this movie is amazing. So it gets a B- for me, and especially for being 1968. Like, this movie definitely visually, yeah, it's phenomenal. So B- for me. If you guys seen the movie 2001 A Space Odyssey, what did you think? Please put in the comment section below. Other than that, see you guys next episode of Movie Breakdowns, and keep being awesome. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If there's a review you want me to watch or do, let me know. Please put it in the comment section below this video. Also, you want to watch the last episode of Movie Breakdowns, it's right there. Just gotta click on it and you'll be able to watch it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Love y'all, and keep being awesome.